Welcome, and thank you for joining The Logic of It All with your host, Reverend Gary Essex Sprunger. Hello. Thank you for following, and glad you could sit in on the conversation. The last time we were together, we discussed how following the lectionary has the advantage of covering for a congregation most of the Bible in 3 years. And it's a discipline, so the minister doesn't fall into the habit of preaching on his favorite topic over and over. The disadvantage is the suggested scriptures have little, if not anything, to do with what's going on in the world. That's a concern, worry for any congregation. For this fifth Sunday of Lent, the Old Testament fuels the imagination of the storytellers in the New Testament writings that date many years after the death of Christ. From the Old Testament, Ezekiel was known as a prophet of visions. Taken captive to Mesopotamia in 598 BC, it's believed he did most of his writings there. His thoughts, visions, were toward Jerusalem. It's believed that about 40% of this book was written by Ezekiel himself, and that's supported by most biblical scholars. This passage inspired the Johnson brothers to write a song, first recorded by the Myers Jubilee Singers in 1928. Ezekiel 37, verses 1 through 14. The hand of the Lord was upon me, and he brought me out by the Spirit of the Lord and set me in the middle of a valley. It was full of bones. He led me back and forth among them, and I saw a great many bones on the floor of the valley, bones that were very dry. He asked me, Son of man, can these bones live? I said, O sovereign Lord, you alone know. Then he said to me, Prophesy to these bones, and say to them, Dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says to these bones. I will make breath enter you, and you will come to life. I will attach tendons to you and make flesh come upon you and cover you with skin. I will put breath in you, and you will come to life. Then you will know that I am the Lord. So I prophesied as I was commanded. And as I was prophesying, there was a noise, a rattling sound, and the bones came together, bone to bone. I looked, and tendons and flesh appeared on them, and skin covered them, and there was no breath in them. Then he said to me, Prophesy to the breath, prophesy, Son of Man, and say to it, This is what the sovereign Lord says. Come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe into these slain, that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and breath entered them. They came to life and stood up on their feet, a vast army. Then he said to me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. They say, Our bones are dried up, and our hope is gone. We are cut off. Therefore, prophesy and say to them, This is what the sovereign Lord says. O my people, I'm going to open your graves and bring you up from them. I will bring you back to the land of Israel. Then, my people, you will know that I am the Lord when I open your graves and bring you up from them. I will put my spirit in you, and you will live, and I will settle you in your own land. Then you will know that I, the Lord, have spoken, and I have done it, declares the Lord. If you remember them bones, them dry bones, you probably sang it in summer church camp along with so many others of us. Ezekiel was prophesying the reconstruction of Jerusalem after its fall to enemy hands. His vision is like putting the human structure back together. That's how Jerusalem will come to life again as the center of Jewish worship, with God's breath giving life to the bones. Ezekiel has God talking to him as he describes himself to be Son of Man, meaning he's human and his role as human is to be a prophet. When Son of Man is used in the New Testament describing Jesus, it is meant that he is what God intended him to be, the perfect example of what the Son of Man, human man, is to be. In Ezekiel's vision, it is God's breath that brings life to the dead bones. In our New Testament lesson, it's the story about how the breath of Jesus shapes the voice that brings life to the dead. The Gospel of John, chapter 11, verses 1 through 45. Now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. This Mary, whose brother Lazarus now lay sick, was the same one who poured perfume on Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, "Lord, the one you love is sick." When he heard this, Jesus said, "This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it." Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. Yet when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. Then he said to his disciples, "Let us go back to Judea." "But Rabbi," they said, "a short while ago the Jews tried to stone you, and you are going back there?" Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? A man who walks by day will not stumble, for he sees by this world's light. It is when he walks by night that he stumbles, for he has no light." After he said this, he went on to tell them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to wake him up." His disciples replied, "Lord, if he sleeps, he will get better." Jesus had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought he meant natural sleep. "Lazarus is dead," he told them plainly, "and for your sake I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him." Then Thomas, called Didymus, said to the rest of his disciples, "Let us also go, that we may die with him." On his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. "Lord," Martha said to Jesus, "if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask." Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha answered, "I know he will rise in the resurrection at the last day." Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" "Yes, Lord," she told him. "I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who has come into the world." And after she said this, she went back and called her sister Mary aside. "The teacher's here," she said, "and is asking for you." When Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet entered the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who had been with Mary in the house, comforting her, noticed how quickly she got up and went out, and they followed, supposing she was going to the tomb to mourn there. When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. "Where have you laid him?" he asked. "Come and see, Lord," they replied. Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?" Jesus, once more deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. "Take away the stone," he said. "But Lord," said Martha, the sister of the dead man, "by this time there is a bad odor, for he's been there 4 days." Then Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. Then Jesus looked up and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, Jesus called out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. Jesus said to them, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." Therefore many of the Jews who had come to visit Mary and had seen what Jesus did put their faith in him. In this story of Lazarus, the storytellers are building on the story of the vision of bones seen by Ezekiel. The old dry bones had been dead a long time, and Lazarus had been dead a long time, 4 days. The storytellers referred back to their story of the man who had been born blind, but healed by Jesus. And the storytellers bring up his experience in Judea, where they give him these words in the story: "The miracles I do in my Father's name speak for me, and I and the Father are one." They attempted to stone him then for blasphemy, but the storytellers say he escaped their grasp. In this Lazarus story, he says, "The illness of Lazarus will not end in death. It is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it." If this isn't blasphemy enough, this certainly is when he says, "I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies, and whoever lives and believes in me will never die." It's not logical that Jesus would speak this way about himself. If he had actually said that when he was alive, he would have been stoned to death. And so would anyone who said he was the Son of God. Those words are in stories found in the other 3 Gospels, but said by others, like Martha does in this Lazarus story, when she says, "I believe you are the Christ, Son of God, who has come into the world." And if that had been true, the descriptions of Jesus never would have been teacher and rabbi. From his birth, when the band of angels declared, "A Savior has been born to you, he is Christ the Lord," him being the Son of God would have followed him throughout his life. He would have been called and referred to and worshipped as the Son of God. And no one, Pharisee, scribes, Sadducee, or Roman, would have dared to lay a hand on him. Had any of the miracles attributed to him really happened, word would have spread and his ministry would have been entirely different, because everyone in those days of ancient knowledge would have fallen on their faces to worship the Son of God. Temples, shrines would have been erected wherever he went, and he would never, ever have been crucified, much less alongside common thieves. Neighboring countries and their histories would have recorded the news that would have spread worldwide that the Son of God lived in the land of the Israelites. We need a Christian Reformation so that we have a clear understanding of who Jesus was and how his teaching saves us as the Messiah would, by having his help up here to assist our soul in the conflict with our ego. The son of Mary and Joseph, Jesus, was a genius about our relationship with God and our relationship with one another. In terms today, he was a savant. Just as there have been savant mathematicians, savant engineers, savant astronomers, savant medicine throughout our history of humanity. Jesus is our personal Messiah, Logically, not a one-size-fits-all humanity Messiah, which is a concept from the Old Testament times, which had called for a Messiah to come to lead an army to defeat the evil that was against Israel and lead them to greatness. There had to be widespread justice in the Old Testament. And in the New Testament, justice becomes forgiveness, widespread, just by accepting it as a free gift. Logically, it's very personal up here, where it is needed. It is not something out there, forgiveness, out there to grasp, be a part of, participate in. That kind of forgiveness given to us by the sacrificial death of Jesus for the forgiveness of all sins. Now, that is impersonal. But up here, where Jesus can teach, assisting one's soul to control the ego and keep it from doing evil, that is a personal relationship with the Messiah. It's not the crucifixion that makes him a Messiah. It's what he taught that makes him the Messiah. We need a Christian Reformation, excuse me, as soon as possible. Christianity has no respect worldwide or in this country. The moral values of the faith are being attacked by the lack of moral values from those who have no faith. And Christianity is at war with a faith having radicals that consider Christians the enemy, who are not believers and whose lives matter not. Will that radical faith survive? Or will others of the same faith who are not radical join in to bring that interpretation, that radical interpretation of their faith to its knees? Time will tell. Which we're out of now, and the coffee's cold. Have a good rest of your day, and sunshine tomorrow.
Thank you for following The Logic of It All and the Hope for a Christian Reformation. If you have followed since episode 1, you're welcome to the website, thelogicofitall.com. Join us again for much, much more in The Logic of It All.